Three, two, one. Alrighty, boys, we're live. We're live. We're
What's
here.
up? What's
Episode
up?
one, final set podcast. It's finally happening, everyone. Finally happening.
First out of the final set.
Yup, yup. So we're titling this first episode here the first set. Kind of little play on words with our name here. Kind of what we wanted to go through here is just kind of a brief background of, our three co-hosts here who you're listening to. And we'll kind of get started with that, and then wrap up with a little what do you want to call it, applied research, basically my master's thesis defense. So give you guys a little bit of content and an opportunity to see kind of what we're all about here and what we want to talk about, and give these guys who I'm talking to here an opportunity also just to ask some questions about what I did when I was in school, in grad school. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'm just going to go ahead and hop right on in and give you guys a little bit of background about myself to start, but just so we can hear everybody else's voices. We also got Mikael and Michael here. I don't know if you guys want to say what's up real quick.
What's
Waving's not
up?
going to
What's
do
up?
great for the listeners.
I'm Michael.
Alrighty, so now that we got some voice to name a little bit, let's go ahead and hop right on in. So I'm just gonna hit a little time track here. Alrighty, well, I'm Alec. I don't know if I said that already. Yeah, and kind of a little bit about myself. So grew up Southern California, born in Riverside, and then kind of grew up in this town called Rancho Cucamonga, in a smaller subset of it called Altaloma, if you want to be super specific. So if anybody's listening from the area, shout out to the area. Uh, Grew up playing baseball there, typical Southern California, LA suburb. Uh, Nothing super crazy going on. Kind of, you know, made my way through school, and was my focus at the time was obviously more so on sports and everything. So then college came around and was going to go play up at Willamette University, play baseball there, but was already kind of dealing some lingering injuries that I had accrued through playing in my younger years and not really taking care of things, which I think that's what initially triggered kind of my initial interest in wanting to follow the path of the healthcare field, and also to my anatomy class that I took in high school. Like when I first took anatomy, I was like, well, the body's freaking cool. So I think that's kind of where it really started. And I remember when I got into college, I made the first transition in my diet, and it was something very simple. I just was like, I'm just going to stop drinking soda. And that was the first change I made. And ever since then, it's just been a progression since then of just progressive overload. As we'll get into talking about that, I'm sure, in later episodes when it comes to resistance training. But that same type of mentality, and that just triggered another thought. Quick little tangent here. Is that's another thing I appreciated about sports growing up and exercise in general. Is there were a lot of lessons I learned in sports that apply to life in general, and just kind of like that ability to delay gratification, that ability to go to practice and work hard, and do the little things, and with a bigger goal in mind. And that's kind of what I carried on into school, especially as I got into college, which once I got there, played my first year there, and got a starting pitching position as a freshman, and was going to go into season. But my injuries, like I mentioned, were starting to catch back up to me. I was starting to deal with some recurrent elbow pain. There were some other personal issues that were going on at the time too. I moved out of state for the first time. There were a lot of other big things, that life changes that happened all at once, that I think kind of messed with my mind a bit, and decided, what, this team wasn't right for me, and I'd rather focus my time and attention on school, with that bigger uh, uh, feeling I had towards wanting to do something in terms of health and fitness, and getting into medicine, actually, kind of relating back to the anatomy class and everything I just mentioned there. And so I decided, you know what, let's just hang up the cleats, let's focus on school. Ended up deciding on an exercise science major, because I did come in pre-med with the intention of doing biology at Willamette, but I was just kind of looking at the curriculums, and I was looking at biology, and I was like, okay, a lot of botany classes, a lot of zoology, comparative anatomy, ecology type stuff, nothing, super translatable to humans. It felt like just, as that arrogant freshman. And then looking at chemistry, it was more of a intimidating type of a thought process of like inorganic chemistry, organic chemistry, physical chemistry. And I was just like, okay, that sounds scary. But then also thinking too is like, how does that help me help people per se? Like, and outside of wanting to actually make medicines, how does that information help me help people directly in the field that is medicine or is personal training? And then that's when I stumbled across exercise science, and there you have anatomy, physiology, exercise physiology, biomechanics, nutrition. One of the classes we took was, which was one of my favorite classes. At the time, they were trying it out. It was the first time they'd ever tried this class out in the curriculum. It's kind of a hybrid of two former classes that they just kind of crammed together, which it still felt like two separate classes at once, but it was clinical as or
clinical applications.
Yeah, clinical applications and functional assessment. And that class, like, hands down, my favorite class, and the one class where, like, in what I'm doing now, it's helping me so much. It's crazy. It's just that class was the lecture portion of the class it was split into 3 units, 3 broad sections: upper extremity, lower extremity, and then the spine and head and brain and everything. So it was any type of injury you could have in sports. So, with the lower extremity, like ACL tears, quad contusions, anything you want to talk about. Same thing with the upper extremity, and then spine, spinal injuries, concussions, all of that. 3 separate units. And you talked about how to essentially do what in the medical field they call SOAP notes. So doing a subjective assessment, objective assessment, and then providing your assessment based off of the subjective and objective information, and based on your assessment coming up with a plan. So SOAP. And we discussed for each condition in each broad category how to go about doing that. And then the lab portion, which was the functional assessment, was basically applied anatomy, where what we had to do was come in, and it was basically another lecture for the first hour and a half, 2 hours, where the professor would go over, shout out to Brandy, professor would go over all of the muscles and bony landmarks, origins, insertions, actions. You needed to know all of it. It was like anatomy, but not just knowing the muscles or the bones, the names of them, but where they are, what their function is, and what happens when they suffer dysfunction, and how to test for that. So we had to learn how to be able to palpate and then also test and isolate muscles based off of what we were trying to ultimately uncover as it relates to the injury. So then when we were being examined in the lab portion, we would have to come in, and there would be 2 envelopes, one for muscles, one for bony landmarks, and you had to grab 10 from each random little pieces of paper that had one, and it'd be like rectus femoris, and then you'd have to go isolate rectus femoris, palpate the muscle belly, and then describe origin, insertion, and what that muscle does. And then that was kind of the test in the class. That class was my favorite because what I'm doing now, I do range of motion tests. I work at a chiropractic clinic, so it's mainly relating to the spine, but there's still other tests. Like I do some of the ortho tests that we talked about and did in our classes and in the exams, like Apley's scratch test, Job's test, Patrick's test, straight leg raise, Slocum's, SLR. Like there's so many tests that I learned in that class that I'm doing now. And that's what also sets me apart from my coworkers. I've noticed is they're just doing these tests because it's what the doctors told them to do. So then I've overheard at times where, like, when a patient might ask, like, what is this test for? All my coworkers are just like, I'm just doing the test. Like, this is just what I'm supposed to do. Whereas, like, I'm there, I know what the test is, I know what we're testing. So if they ask me, like, not only can I answer the question for them, which, quick note on that, as kind of like as a patient provider interaction, giving them that information and giving them the ability to understand what you're doing and what they're going through gives them that feeling that it calms them a bit. It relieves that anxiety of the unknown, because now they're a bit more aware of what's going on and what they might be able to do to take care of it on their own. But what I noticed is, like I was saying, is that, I could give that extra mile and give that, also be able to recognize when I'm doing these tests, there's little things you can look for, whether or not they're guarding, whether or not they're having that apprehension in their face. There's little things we learned about in that class that we haven't gone over in training at my job site that just sets me apart from those other coworkers. No, nothing against them. That's just, I'm giving kudos to our exercise science department and what they did there. Like, that was amazing what I'm seeing. So then, after finishing my exercise science degree there, I did some other things there, some other stuff. Like I said before, I changed from soda to mainly water. And then when I took nutrition as part of the degree, that's when I started building more into meal prepping, trying to understand more about macros, calories, how much I should eat based off my training and my goals and all of that. And got a job at GNC, so I worked in the supplement industry, took all types of supplements, and was super proud of my stack and everything like that. But then again, started to realize I ended up taking another nutrition course, and the more I started learning about nutrition, the more I realized, like, one, the supplement industry just kind of cherry picks research, over exaggerates certain things, and then just uses that to push products onto people. And the companies themselves are also incentivized to push certain products based off of which company gives them more money. So we would have, for example, at GNC, there's this product, the company there called Performix, and there's two different types of ways companies go about advertising. One is they'll just promote themselves through like magazines, commercials, that type of stuff. Then there's the other type of promotion where they'll incentivize employees with commission. So Performix is really good at doing both because they have the money for it, and they're really good in particular about the commission part. So what they would do is, if almost every one of their products, like a lot of their products are minimum like $50-$60. And on those products, if I sold one of those products, I would make $15 commission.
Wow.
And then because that company was paying GNC a lot, or incentivized GNC a lot to promote them, what GNC would do is they would then incentivize the managers and the stores by saying, we're going to do a regional competition. Whichever company, whichever region or store in the region sells the most Performix across this time span, you guys will get X amount of pay bonus. You'll get a $500 this. You'll get free products from them, XYZ. So then it just became, okay, who can push the most Performix? It's not what GNC tells you in their interviews when you're coming in and everything, that you got to give the customer what they want, make it related to their goals, ask them questions about their goals so you can give them what they want. Well, you just do that still, but then you just kind of maneuver their goals in alignment with this product that you want to sell. So one of the best is the Performix SST, which is a fat burner. I say the best because you could make $20 commission off selling one bottle of that. And it's a 1 month supply. So if you can get somebody buying this, that's $20 in your pocket every month from one person. And then if there's an incentive as well, there's a $500 pay bonus. If you can sell the most Performix in that month, then every person that comes in, you're going to find a way to push them that SST, because it's also the most like amount you sell, and that's the most expensive item. So I'm going to push that. So there were, and it's like we were instructed to do this, and they told us like these little strategies to do this. They'd be like, okay, well, so SST, it's a fat burner, yes, but it's got caffeine in it. So if somebody's complaining of low energy, they're not talking about, I want to burn fat. They're just like, I'm just tired. I just don't have a lot of energy. Well, take this, see this SST right here? It's got 300 milligrams of caffeine in it. Take one pill in the morning and one pill before your workout. Boom. There you go. And now you just sold them on that. And then same thing, fat burning. Well, here you go. Put this as your fat burner. There you go. So it was just, I didn't like that. And then I realized, okay, you can get everything you need from the diet. So then I started building on the diet more, investigating that more. And despite all that I was learning and doing, like I was meal prepping, I was working out multiple days per week, I felt like I was doing everything right. I still wasn't getting the physique or the body composition that I wanted. And then I came across intermittent fasting. And then I started doing that in my gap year. I was working as a medical scribe for a surgeon, and I was doing intermittent fasting. So I wasn't eating, I was doing time restricted feeding specifically. So I wasn't eating between the hours of 8 p.m. the day before up until noon the next day. So I would go to work, and during my morning shift, I just wouldn't eat. I would just drink black coffee, water. And then at noon when we would have our lunch, it worked out perfectly because our morning shift ended at noon. I would go have lunch, eat, great. And then I would go work out when I got off work, come back after 8 and stop eating at 8. And the more I did that, the closer I got to the ultimate physique I wanted. And that really interested me because I was like, I didn't do anything other than change the times at which I ate. I ate the exact same amounts, the exact same macros, more or less, roughly speaking, because I wasn't weighing food, so it wasn't 100% accurate. But based off of what I'd been eating relative to several years prior, like I wasn't changing things drastically. And other than just changing the times at which I ate, not only did I feel better or look better, but I felt better. And then that really started to interest me because then I also felt more focused at work in the morning. I don't know if it was maybe because I was having caffeine in a fasted state and that was accelerating my cognition, or if it was the fast itself. But nonetheless, I just had this mental focus thing. And then the reason why that interests me is because actually when I was an undergrad, we had to do a thesis to graduate. And my undergrad thesis was a literature review on how aerobic exercise affects cognition, particularly in children and adolescents. And there's substantial evidence, I wouldn't even say suggest anymore, to show that aerobic exercise is not only great for the brain and just overall health and well-being, but actually does promote memory and neuroplasticity in the brain under specific guidelines and considerations, which we can talk about at a different time. But nonetheless, I was like, so I wonder if this time-restricted feeding is doing something similar. And I just kind of started doing some reading and research articles. And the more I just started doing all this, I was like, I need to get back into school. Like this is awesome. I want to do more research. So ended up doing a master's degree down in Long Beach. Went to Cal State Long Beach. Did a master's degree in exercise physiology and nutrition, and I got an assistantship there where I taught exercise physiology labs and assisted with the lecture portion. And then I was also a graduate assistant for Professor Dr. Josh Cotter there, and he specializes in designing exercise interventions to counteract space-induced muscle atrophy or muscle atrophy while in a low gravity environment. Yeah. So basically, his ultimate goal, what he talked about is growing up, he just always had this cool thought process of wanting to be able to make space trips to Mars possible and like long distance space travel possible. So it was cool getting to do some of the research there. And I don't know if have you guys heard of the it was NASA was doing it for a while. It was the bed rest study where they would pay you like it was like 20 grand or something like that to just lay in bed for 3 months. So he when he was doing his postdoc, the research team he was a part of was involved with that because they were using, there was actually some separate groups within that study where one group was bed rest only and another group was bed rest with exercise. And the exercise was done on this machine called a flywheel, which is, it's up on the International Space Station. It's what they use to exercise in space, and it is so freaking cool because the thing is like, it's just a turbine. It's like that big. It's got a bracket, so then you can mount it anywhere. So you can go low to high to be able to do like, upright rows. You can do straight in front for rows, pull downs. There's harnesses. So you can do legs and squats. And essentially the concept behind this thing is a yo-yo. So because when you're in space, there's no gravity, so there's nothing to give weight when you're thinking of weights at a gym like dumbbells. They float. There's no gravity to give them the properties they have here on Earth. So basically with a yo-yo, with the concept of this flywheel, is with a yo-yo, when you coil it up and then you drop it down, when it reaches the bottom, it uses rotational inertia to come back up and resist the force of gravity, and that's how you can use a yo-yo. So with that same concept in mind, the turbine, let's say you're doing a squat, so it's beneath you, the turbine is in between your legs, and there's a rope attached to a harness that you're wearing. So you're going to squat down, and when you squat down, that's like you rolling the yo-yo up in your hand. And then when you stand up out of the bottom of a squat, that's you dropping the yo-yo down. So what happens when you get to the top of the squat, or alternatively when the yo-yo reaches the bottom, the yo-yo wants to come back up, so the turbine pulls you back down. So now you have a resistance to fight against while in space. There's this pulling force that you have to resist, and then it pulls you down, and then you just continue the chain. And it's super dope. And then he does other things too, like combining blood flow restriction. So like putting like a cusp on and maintaining blood flow restriction while doing exercise, and looking at how blood flow restriction might enhance the muscle hypertrophy process or not. And then also using things like electrical stimulation. So a lot of cool research that he does, and that's coming out in the future about all that. But yeah, so that's kind of, in essence, my background there. Did that master's degree, ended up graduating, 2 years there. Did some other things there. I was a strength coach at the Pyramid, which is where the Division I teams train. So I was able to work with a lot of the Division I teams there: basketball, baseball. My second semester I worked there, I actually took over the tennis team, so the women's tennis team. So I did all their programming, periodization, training with them. Worked heavily with the indoor volleyball, women's volleyball team as well, that semester. So I got a lot of good experiences there. I was also president of a student organization, Exercise is Medicine. So check them out. It's a great organization just to be a part of if you go to Long Beach. Even if you don't go to Long Beach, follow them on Instagram. They got a lot of good content, especially right now. Staying at home, they pump out a lot of good content for things you can do while at home. And then after graduating, right at the end of and beginning of the pandemic there, and back in May, took some time off with things, and now I'm just working at a chiropractic clinic as a physiotherapist. So just doing a lot of muscle work, muscle relaxation techniques, trigger point, myofascial release, PNF stretching. We use a hypervolt a lot, so just getting really good at hands-on care. And I mentioned earlier, like I do a lot of ortho exams there, range of motion testing, new patient exams. So it's essentially like it's a glimpse of being a doctor. It's really cool. I'm really enjoying it. But I'll go ahead and cut myself off there because I know I kind of went on a little bit of a tear there, a little bit of a rant. My bad, boys. My
Going
bad.
in, going in.
Yeah. So I'll let one of you guys hop in. I don't know who wants to go ahead and take over.
Shoot, I can go. Well, let me know if I'm missing anything
Yeah.
as I go on.
Well, Michael,
Uh,
why don't you start us off with where you're born, raised,
yeah,
and
yeah,
kind of how you got started, who you are, who is Michael,
yeah. All right. Well, I'm Michael.
what is Michael?
So I was born in Vietnam. Born in '93. We moved over to America in '94. Don't remember anything related to Vietnam back then. We first moved to, I believe, West Oakland, then to Hayward, and I think early 2000s we moved to Union City. Um, so yeah, I've been in the East Bay for majority of my life. Uh, let's see. I went to Cal State East Bay in Hayward. It's where I got my BS in exercise, nutrition, and wellness. Uh, got my minor in hospitality, recreation, and tourism. Did that just to pad my GPA, and by the end of my senior year, my advisor was like, you're one class away from getting a minor in it. And I was like,
Why not?
why not? So yeah, got my minor in that. I haven't really put it to use yet, but one of these days. And let's see. So how I got a little bit more inspired to apply for grad school. So I'm big into lifting. I remember that specific day I was at 24 Hour Fitness. I just started learning about the Valsalva maneuver. Um, so I'm lifting heavy, and I performed the
Air quotes
maneuver.
around heavy.
Yeah, heavy. So as I'm at the bottom, I was trying to brace my core, and I don't know, excuse me, I don't know what happened, but I just felt something kind of just move not correctly, and I was like, oh, there goes my back. So for about 3-4 days, I was not standing straight, could hardly pick up a pencil. And
Like SpongeBob.
yeah, it was bad. It was bad. I was so my mom took me to go see an acupuncture um, person. She's got a guy. Uh, went there. He did about 2 sessions, and man, those needles were thick. I actually had scabs from it, but that going there helped me. And after that, I told myself that I didn't want anyone to go through that same experience, that same pain as I did. because it sucked first off, and never want to wish that on anybody. Yeah, so I wanted to figure out ways to prevent that, just to, whether it be with your mechanics, and just going down to little techniques. So that's what I wanted to do more and more of. And after that, I started working at this private studio. It's called The Perfect Workout. uh, Pretty interesting. They focused on more of eccentric movements. You can look it up more if you guys are interested. And yeah, I met a client there where she loved riding horses, and one day, I don't know what happened, but uh, the horse kind of just flipped her off, and took her off her seat, and I believe she was quadriplegic, and she had some surgeries where she was able to, start moving. And the only thing that was really helping her was doing that slow motion weight training. I was like, damn, like, she's not taking any medicine, just like what,
Exercise is medicine.
exactly, that's what Alec was saying, exercise medicine. And East Bay, Cal State East Bay, had an exercise medicine program, so that's how I originally uh, learned about it. But yeah, I mean, exercise medicine, it just resonates really well. There's a lot of things that we learn in school about, how to slow down aging and all that, and that leads up to just exercising, physical activity. It's the
Moving the
easiest thing
body.
that you can do. Yes, easiest thing you can do. You can walk, just get active, so that really resonated with me. And then moving forward, going to Cal State Long Beach to get my exercise science degree. It's where I met Alec as well. From then on, I wanted to work more with athletes in particular. I like basketball, football, track and field. Um, so being able just to, find specific movements that help those specific athletes, excel in their sports, um, I thought it was pretty cool. And then, that kind of opened up to me diving into different sports, talking to Alec because, he did tennis, and he saw a lot of other athletes in different sports, throughout the days when he was working at the Pyramid, the gym for athletes on campus. So yeah, just being able to do that was pretty interesting. And I've got into sports massage, deep tissue release, all that good stuff. So I just like, being able to learn stuff on YouTube. I'm a visual learner, so being able to see all that and being able to translate it through just visuals and just trying it myself on
Yeah,
myself.
visual
Uh,
and hands-on, and that's one big critique I have as to why yeah, exactly, why I don't wanna hop right into school right now with everything being online. Like, I wanna do a PhD or an MD, but, like, Mikhail and I have a buddy, Adam, who's in med school right now, and I was talking to him, and, like, he's saying everything's online. He's behind
yeah,
the computer, like, 18 hours a day, sitting down, and I'm just like, that goes against everything I've learned in school in terms of the physical activity you mentioned there, Michael, and it's like,
yeah,
that just doesn't sound sustainable to me,
no,
especially if after that 4-year process, the outcome of that is now I need to be in a situation to actually help people. Like, I feel like I'm going to be worse off myself mentally, physically, emotionally, to where it's like, how am I going to be in a situation to want to help people if I got to now take care of myself again to get myself back after the
right.
4 years of sitting on my ass? And same thing goes for a PhD with hands off and social distancing. Like, how do you do research right now? There's probably so much extra red tape and so many more loopholes you have to jump through that it's just like, it's too much of a headache. So I just like, that's yeah, it's just on pause right now. But
I'm like really interested to see the next generation of like nurses and doctors and stuff that are doing all online right now.
Yep,
it's
yep.
gonna be
I
interesting.
wish every single one of them the best, and I hope that everything all works out. I just like it's gotta be different, bro.
Yeah,
It,
you're a little quiet, Mikhail. I don't know if you can turn your mic up a little bit
Okay,
or get a little closer.
all right, let me get a little closer. But yeah, it's a little better.
Yeah, a
yeah,
little bit better. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, dude, I mean, like again, like wish the best for everybody. Hope it all works out. It's just like that's gonna be different, bro. I mean, but
yeah.
everything, right now.
For sure.
Well, and to be fair to Adam too, just real quick, is like it wasn't something that he planned for. You know, he was in med school when all this went down. It's like there was nothing he could control. Whereas when I'm in a situation of, do I want to get in that now with everything going on? It's just like I don't know. And again, you know, like Michael mentioned, I'm more of that in-person, visual, hands-on learner, to where it's like having to do everything in my apartment every day and not having any interaction with other people. It's just like I don't know if that's the
Sucks.
situation to set
Sucks.
myself up to help people.
It sucks
Yeah.
so bad, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sucks.
Let's see. Let's see. So going forward, so after graduating, oh, and I did my comprehensive exam on. My topic was comparing the efficacy of various methods of recovery from damaging exercises, including pneumatic compression, compression garments, and foam rolling. But yeah, so there a lot of good
Say that 10
content.
times fast.
I know, right?
Bro.
A lot of good content in there. You know, so I'm looking at phenomenon of like DOMs, supplementations, using those tools for recovery, seeing all if you know whether or not they were effective. So yeah, that's for another podcast. But so that was pretty interesting. And then moving forward, uh, got into gardening from my aunt because she gave me 2 plants before grad school. So that kind of got me researching and looking at different type of things. And this is where I met another classmate, and from then on, I was introduced to um, my partners, my business partners, and that's how we started agro substrates. And what we focus in is we're selling mediums, which is another word for just a base that you're using for your plants. Instead of soil, you're using cocoa peat, which is what we sell, and that's a byproduct of coconut husk. And we source our products from Sri Lanka, where you know it's abundant in coconuts, and our product itself, it's renewable, it's organic, it's sustainable, and you know we should aim to preserve the earth, especially with everything going on nowadays. It's a little crazy. Yeah, so being able to learn more about the process of growing your own produce, I want to be able to join that into my future practices of being a strength conditioning coach, having my own private facility. So being able to grow those, your own produce, being able to offer it to the members, your athletes and whatnot, that way you're promoting a better eating habits, just living a better lifestyle. And yeah, kind of what Alec is saying, just joining in that nutrition and being able to dial in your workouts, those are the 2 easiest ways to enhance and improve your health and your looks, if that's what you're going for. Just nutrient dense foods, whole foods instead of processed foods. So yeah, just being able to do all that, exercise, medicine, eating better. And yeah, so that's what I'm all about. And yeah, it's a little bit about me.
Quick shout out to Agro there. That's actually we'll try and edit some ads in. I don't know how we'll be able to do that with our beginning video editing experience here, but shout out to them real quick. They're actually one of the sponsors for our podcast here. So Agro, we'll drop some links in the descriptions for you guys. We actually we'll throw in a little promo code too to get you guys some discounts to not only help them out but help yourselves out and start doing some house plants yourselves or growing some food yourselves at home, because you mentioned that just reminded me of Oregon. And that's one thing when my time there that I didn't really clarify in my background, that Oregon taught me a lot about sustainability and just being environmentally conscious. And one of my good buddies I met there, Durs, he really woke me to just the benefits of houseplants, aside from the health benefits and just improving the environmental benefits, just having something to take care of and something that you're growing with, in a sense. Like, plants can outlive you. So it's cool to think about that, because I've had this idea in mind that with my houseplants, I'm taking them from apartment to apartment, and just trying to keep them alive. And then each new transition in life, I try to get a new plant to remember that. And then finally, when I settle at whatever house it'll be, I want to plant them in the front yard and then let them grow. And then as I get older, I can talk about those plants were with me, like Durs got me those in undergrad or whatever, or this was when I did my master's degree or whatever it is. And so like, that's another cool thing that I appreciate about plants. And one other thing I wanted to mention is I don't think I really clarified, how my background, all the injuries I had, what I've done has led up to what I want to do now. And really what I want to do is I want to just help not only educate people, but because that's part of the background I've had with my degrees, but also be hands-on and skilled enough. And that's what I'm doing now with working at the clinic, is having the skills and knowledge to be able to educate and provide people with what they need to help either prevent them from suffering injuries in their sport, or get them looking the body type that they want to get to, or have them feeling the way they want to or improve the health markers that they want to improve. And that relates to also my motivation to get into medicine and become a doctor. Is I've recognized that I would like to be a doctor that is competent in diet and exercise and can have that conversation with you when you're in the office there and you're like, well, you've given me this diagnosis or this medication, what else can I do? And I want to start taking a step towards, even if the research isn't there, let's start doing the research. If the recommendations aren't there, let's start figuring out the recommendations. So like, that's what I want to do. And it's an ambitious idea, but that's what I want to do. And that's in essence one of the main driving forces to this podcast here. Is it's a platform in which we can bring together like-minded individuals, share our experiences, and just hopefully grow a community that is more willing to take on diet and exercise to promote health and fitness, and to just be a more well-rounded community that is sustainable, that is considerate of their peers, and is just willing to be a good human and to push biology in the direction that it was meant to be, and all of those things. And by extension, I'm also trying to get a coaching business up and running, Tower of Power periodization, which I'll talk about. We can talk about our training companies. Probably let's do that maybe like next episode or another one, just kind of like a trailer to this, and we'll kind of go more into our each of our own training companies, so that way we can kind of spread the time out and we're not drowning people with too much information at once, for sure. Well, Mikael, let's go ahead and save the best for last.
All right.
Let's wrap it up. Bring it home.
All right, so yeah, my name is Mikael. I was born in Puyallup, Washington. I just say either Tacoma or Seattle because, like, that's not from Washington. How to even say Puyallup. Yeah,
guilty.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Exactly. I was born there. Moved to Seattle as like a little kid. Lived in West Seattle for a couple of years with my mom. Moved to Florida for a couple of years.
I didn't know you lived in Florida.
And then back to Puyallup. It was like a little like reverse.
Man, you're around.
Yeah, dude. Like, yeah, for real.
So you've been in the clouds and the humidity.
Yeah, hot ass Texas. So, but that's enough.
Hitting all the coasts.
Oh yeah. But so yeah, man. I as a kid I was like really involved in athletics. I think I played like every sport, man, like basketball, football, baseball, soccer. I was like a little kid. I was always outside with my friends, just super active. But like, despite all that, I was like a fat kid, dude. Like I was.
Me too, dude.
Big, dude. Oh,
it
yeah.
Sucked.
Big, bro. Like, and like as a kid, I didn't care. Like I was a kid. I didn't know you're supposed to be like. People just were like ashamed of like.
Yeah, dude. Crushing McDonald's in between your double headers, just pounding Gatorades left and right. Like this is
like
I need chicken nuggets, dude. Like
yeah.
Yeah. So played sports like all my life. Played football all through high school. Football was like the love, I'll say, of all the sports I was playing. I basically cut everything off and just stuck with football starting in 8th grade. My dad was the coach, so that's really what got me into That's what got me into it. I wanted to play for my dad. So I played all through high school. I went on to play football at Willamette University, which is where I met Alec. Sorry, I'm so bad talking about myself. But okay.
Good, dude.
I got to Willamette. I knew. So in high school, if you would have asked me like what I wanted to do or what I wanted to be, I would have told you I wanted to be a psychologist. or like a psychiatrist, something along those lines. Cause I just knew like my whole life, whatever I do, I just want to like help people get better or like be a better version of themselves, whatever it may be. So I knew that was like the root of like what I'll call it my purpose, I guess, like what I'm here for. And then like through high school, just like I was always the guy that people would like come to with like problems or issues, whatever. And like I just learned a lot of people's problems are like stupid. So I was like, I don't want to do psychology. So I got into school. I started an exercise and health, exercise science degree. I thought originally I wanted to go to school for physical therapy. I went to my first pre-health meeting and was like, no way, dude. Like, no way. I'm not taking organic chemistry. Like, I'm not taking physics.
I had a similar situation like that too. I wanted to do PT and I was like, never mind.
Like, I mean, I let the advisor talk me into taking chemistry my very first year at Willamette, like during football season. I got killed, bro. I got killed.
Same. Yeah, my schedule first semester freshman year was Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 a.m. chemistry, 9 a.m. physics, 10 a.m. third semester Spanish in my first semester there. And then at 1 o'clock, I had applied statistics. And then right after that class, I had to head to baseball practice at 2, which we went until sundown. And by sundown, it was like 7 o'clock, and Gowdy closed at 7, which was the dining commons. So then I couldn't eat. So then the only thing open in Salem, which was everything closed really fucking early. The only thing open late was Domino's. So then that was my college nutrition was Domino's late at night and then wraps in the middle of the day. And that was basically all I ate. And dude, those chemistry and physics killed me because they had 2 3-hour labs, and those were at 8 a.m. on Tuesday, Thursday. So I had 8 a.m.s Monday through Friday, and baseball every day, all day in the afternoon, and eating like a whole pizza every night, and like a terribly nutritious, it wasn't nutritious at all, really, wrap. And just thinking about the sustainability of that in terms of health and fitness and just feeling good to play for a sports team. Terrible. But go ahead, Mikael. Sorry, I just had to mention that.
No, I like real, man. Like my diet freshman year was awful because of the exact same thing.
Not being able to cook for yourselves because they wouldn't let you have shit in the dorms.
Yeah,
you couldn't even have a microwave.
Dude,
you could have a hot plate.
It was ridiculous, bro. Like
you could have a hot plate, but not a microwave.
I like lived because Gowdy sucked too. Our commons, like the dinners at Gowdy, like no disrespect to the lane. I know they're doing their best, but like Gowdy sucks for the dinner, dude. And so like, like I had the option to like walk over there at 6:30 or just like literally anything else. And I chose anything else like 90% of the time.
One of the last times I ate there, we had chicken tenders. Got the chicken tenders for dinner. Bit into one. There was a head of a chicken in it. And I was like, "Yep, I'm not eating here no more. I'm done. I'm out."
That's crazy. Holy shit, that's crazy.
You hear that, Willamette?
Meatless Mondays is a whole other conversation for exclusion and not being equal. It's like, well, what am I supposed to eat for protein on meatless Mondays? Not say you can't get protein from plants, but I'm also saying that Commons is not catering to a high protein sports based diet that is fully plant based when they're going plant based on Mondays. It's not there. There's not the variety you need to meet the protein of what I want.
Gowdy sucks, dude.
Yeah,
I'll let them live for a little bit.
Yeah. Enough bashing them.
I got killed in chem, dude, and I knew if I wanted to do PT school, I was gonna have to retake chem and then take physics, and I was just like, fuck that, honestly. Like I don't want to do that, dude. Like,
yep.
I stayed on like the pre-PT track, doing like the whole exercise science degree, like anatomy, physiology, exphys, biomechanics, clinical apps, all that. And I ended up still doing a PT physical therapy internship because I knew that like I still wanted to do like something involved with physical therapy. Like when I did my internship, I was working with the physical therapy assistant a lot more than I was with the head physical therapist. And like what they do is they just like they get the program from the PT or whatever, and they just take the person through the workouts. And like I really enjoyed taking people through the workouts and like telling them what to be looking for and like where you should feel things and like kind of like Alec touched on earlier, like explaining like what each movement is, like, and how this movement is gonna equal or get us to like the big picture goal, you know, like Willamette really taught me that, I mean, obviously education is important, but like for patients, clients, whatever it may be, like education creates purpose, dude. And when you have like that purpose, then you're gonna get the results. Because like think about just being in school when teachers just give you busy work, you're like, dude, fuck this. I'm just literally just doing this just to do it. But when they give you something that's like this is going to affect this grade or whatever, it's like okay, like I need to actually do this, or I need to put like effort into this. So the PT internship was awesome, and that's what really got me into thinking about physical or personal training, I should say, because physical therapy assistants are really just like personal trainers. Honestly, they just take you through all the things, except they don't program. They get it from a physical therapist. But I was like, well, dude, with personal training, I can program and take everybody through it, and there's no insurance, so I can see them as long as they want to come back. Like no one's telling me like how long I can see this person. And kind of what got me into, I mean that as well, but what other thing that kind of got me into personal training was just like my own life, man. Like I was pretty heavy set, honestly, like my whole life up until my junior year. During the off season, I'd sprained my MCL and like bad, dude. Like it sucked, and I couldn't do anything for like a month and a half while I was like rehabbing, recovering, and I was still eating like an athlete because that's just like what I knew. And I like was already kind of heavy, and then I just got huge, dude, like huge. And like I already wasn't seeing like a lot of playing time my freshman sophomore year because I just like was slow, dude. And I was like, okay, well, if I want to see the field, I want to like get better, I need to maybe start applying the things I'm learning in school to like my own life. And I did, and like from the summer of or end of junior season to the beginning of senior year, I lost like 45 pounds, and was just literally like the fastest I'd ever been, like the strongest I'd ever been, definitely the best football I ever played. But like all that stuff aside, I just like felt like the best I've ever felt in my life. Like my energy was high every day. Like my confidence, it was through the roof, and I had never experienced that. I always had like pretty low like self-confidence, self-esteem, just as a result of like what I looked like. And when I finally got to that point of like, dude, I did it, that made me I wanted to take that feeling and wanted to be able to like help other people get there. And as I've been doing like personal training and stuff, I've kind of learned or realized, I should say, that like of course like the physical side of training and exercise is incredibly important. We all know that. There's billions and billions of research articles to prove that. But I've noticed that the biggest like issue with a lot of my clients was more of the mental side, where they're like, I have this big goal, I want to lose 30, 40 pounds, whatever it may be, but like I'm not losing 6 pounds a day or like whatever it is, like people have like a lot of unrealistic expectations, and those unrealistic expectations lead them to think that they're just like failing every second of the day, and like they're not, like as we know, it's a process. And so my goal is I want to try to like really bridge the physical and the mental side of like training and exercise and bring them together. And like what I mean by that is I think for me, I really like being able to be that like support system for people and remind them like, it's gonna take a while, and you're doing a good job while you're doing this. And like look at like PRs for lifts and stuff, like like we were squatting 100 pounds 3 weeks ago, we just did like 150, whatever it may be, like trying to find or set it up so that people can like see that it's like a million strokes of a paintbrush that are going to get you to the big picture. And I realized that just people didn't have I won't say the ability, but had never thought of it like that before, I should say. Because if you like, especially like for women, because like 99% of, not 99, but a very high percent of my clients are women. And like, I personally think that they probably have it like the worst, honestly, if you have an Instagram or like a Twitter or a Facebook or just literally watch TV, like women are always being told like this is what you're supposed to look like, and that's it, and like, or like hip dips, dude, that's not even a fucking thing. And like now it's just something that everyone's like concerned about, and it's like it's literally what you look like, it's anatomy, like stuff like that. And like people, a lot of my clients, or just people in general, have never had the like either someone to kind of tell them or just like have ever thought of it than like I don't actually have to give a fuck about what these people are saying, like I should just care about how I feel and how I'm progressing and what I'm doing. Like I may not have lost those 50 pounds yet, but I squatted 70 pounds more than I was, or like I'm walking up the stairs and not losing my breath and like things like that, you know. And one thing I always tell my clients is like, you exercise because you love your body, not because you hate it. And like, just like words are important, you know. Like I always say that too. Like just that little switch of the word
Self-talk.
love and hate, like is yeah, exactly. Like you talk to yourself more than anybody else, like your entire life, you know. So like you should be making sure you're saying like good things to yourself, and
Yep.
that's something
You're
I've
not
had to
gonna.
work on too. And like I still kind of struggle with. I'm sure everybody does struggle with like where they have days where they just feel down, whatever. But like um, that's kind of where I see like my purpose in like the fitness industry, at least with my clients, is like we're gonna get you to your goal. We're gonna work hard, but like along the way, you're gonna teach you how to like love yourself and to be comfortable with where you're at and to look forward to where we're getting, but also appreciate and enjoy and understand the process of how we're gonna get there. And that's, I mean, it's awesome, dude. I always say I don't really work, dude. I just get paid to like go like hang out with my friends and help them like do stuff,
Yep.
help them, like,
Yep.
Yep.
you
Yep.
know, it's awesome, man. I like going back to what we're talking about this pandemic, like it sucks because we're all just inside all the time, you know, like um, just miss, I mean, I still have a lot of some in-person clients, but like I just miss that like hands-on stuff, being like one-on-one and really connecting with people.
Mm-hmm.
Like being a
Mm-hmm.
trainer is cool because you wear so many hats. Like you're obviously a trainer for their fitness, but like you're sometimes like a therapist, or like a counselor, or just like a friend, or just like a shoulder, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of gets back to like my original roots in high school, like, oh, I want to be a psychologist or a therapist, whatever. I kind of get to do it all, man. I don't, it's not a job. I just show up and hang out, man. Like, you know, it's awesome. Yeah, that was quite the tangent. I don't even know if that's all I got.
No, but that was
No, it's
like
good.
you
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 covered
mentioned a
everything.
lot there that I think is just kind of sums up why we wanted to do this podcast, and is kind of a shared interest, goal, ambition, whatever you want word you want to use to describe it, that we all have within us. And why I think, it was part of the reason why I reached out to each of you guys to start this podcast, is I recognize that each of us has that similar motivation despite our separate backgrounds, which we just kind of went through there. But I think that's also unique too, is we each had a different path, yet we have a similar goal in mind for the future. And that path and that past allows us to be able to relate to different people. And that's what I think will help this podcast out in the broader aspect, is we'll be able to tailor our conversation to multiple groups and types of people and goals and interests, because of the variety of experiences that we each have had, and the differences in our education and our background. Despite the similarities that are there, we still have those unique differences that will allow us to be able to talk about things in detail, and a variety of things for listeners. And you mentioned another good point towards when you were talking about like insurance and why you enjoy personal training, aside from working as like a PT, for example, because you can tailor to more people. You don't have to be constrained by insurances. And that's one thing I've noticed just in the workplace as a scribe, and now as a physiotherapist working at a chiropractic clinic, is there's a lot of patients who come in, they want to get your care. Well, what's your insurance? XYZ insurance. Well, we only take XY, we don't take Z. And then the person who has Z, it's like, well, what do I do for my problems? Good luck. And then it's just like, yeah. And it's sad to see that, because like as a provider, like somebody who wants to help people, like I have all the information, right? It's right here. Like and the thing that's separating us is some other entity called insurance that's not even present in that moment,
Literally
aside
never
from the
gonna work,
card.
you know,
Yeah,
like
there's not like an insurance adjuster there, like no, yep, this doesn't work. It's just like be there, look at the patient, and then also think like, but then you also have to think as the provider too, the amount of time, effort, and money they've invested into getting their education. Like they also need to be compensated as much as they want to help the person. Like if you're $500,000 in debt, like you got to have that compensation too. So it is a challenge and it is a battle. So it's like you can't. People have to be willing to pay for their care and pay that extra mile if they want that extra mile in return. But at the same time, we also need to be mindful of the fact that like we're trapping a lot of people, in other words, without getting into a whole insurance conversation. But
yeah. And so I had one more point too, that so back when you were talking about oh my god, no, it just left, bro. No. No, dude.
Insurance, talking about,
Back when we were, okay, when you were talking about patient education, yes.
yeah.
Okay, so I did my thesis on, I did like an internship for my thesis with that PT clinic, and for the internship thesis at Willamette, you have to develop like a resource or something that the place you interned at can like use every day. And
Mm-hmm.
so one thing that I noticed, so in Salem, Oregon, I believe it was like 15% of the population is like Spanish as a first language. And I had noticed just in my time in the clinic, like we had a decent amount of incidents where like the child like speaks English, the mom or dad, whoever it may be, speaks some like broken English, but not fully to like understand, you know? So like
Mm-hmm.
the PTA would be able to like instruct the child, but when it comes to like the kid doing the things on their own at home, like she wasn't really able to fully communicate to the parent like how to guide their kid or look over their kid while they're doing
Yeah.
it. So it's like a lot of just points that are missed throughout the exchange. And so what I did was I picked like just a common ankle injuries, common knee injuries, and common shoulder injuries. And I broke it down by category, like what the injury is, what like common mechanisms of injury are, and then like what common like mechanisms of rehab are, or like common, like these are some common exercises that people will do to rehab a lateral ankle sprain or whatever it may be. And had one in English and then one in Spanish, just to, it may not directly resolve, like say someone comes in with like a, I don't know, an abdominal injury, might not help that person. But for the three most common injuries at a pediatric clinic, like that's kind of what I did. And throughout that process of making those resources and doing the research for it, I had realized that patient education and patient compliance are like this. Like,
Mm-hmm.
cannot have one without the other. Because you
Yep.
can tell anybody like, yo, just go do this. And they might a couple of times, but after a while, it's like, what am I doing? I don't even know what I'm doing this for. You know,
Yep.
like, oh, I guess this might make my ankle feel better, but like, it's only been 3 days. I don't know. I haven't felt better yet, you know, like, but if you can give people the education, like we're doing these dorsiflexions with banded dorsiflexions on your ankle to build strength and what, you know, whatever it may be. And then people can start to connect the dots and like, okay, like that makes sense. I can see exactly how this exercise, this movement is going to help my ankle feel better. Okay, I feel more like inclined to do it because I can see
Mm-hmm.
how it's going to work, as opposed to like busy work that we were talking about, where it's like,
Yep.
you know, just sit down and write this essay or whatever it may be. It's like,
Yeah,
that's,
no, and like that whole description there is exactly like the motivation as to why I wanted to go get the master's degree anyhow. Is like I felt like I was starting to learn some of the information, at least for myself, but I didn't have the ability to effectively communicate it yet. And I didn't have the deep understanding that I felt like I truly needed to be able to effectively communicate it. So that's kind of the motivation to the master's degree. And then I got to a situation where it was like, I feel like I can talk about it really well. And it's like, you have a question, I can answer it, but it's like, I don't know how to apply it per se, or like actually use it in the field or with people. So that's where the job I'm at now, I'm seeing the merger of all of those experiences in my past of now I'm using the education in conjunction with the hands-on skills. So like you were saying, I'm able to do something for somebody. And while I'm doing, like, let's say the example is PNF stretching, while I'm doing the PNF stretch, I'm actually able to tell them what proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation means, what autogenic inhibition is, how it's actually working, how activating the quads can lead to a greater relaxation of the hamstrings. And that in essence is the PNF stretch. And being able to tell them that gives them, because I can just, you could have the hands-on skills to be able to just go in there and say, I want you to push into me and emphasize squeezing the quad, and then do that for 10 seconds. And then we're going to stretch a little bit further. Great. But how does that really help them understand what's actually going on? So then being able to actually tell them, by squeezing this quad, your brain's sending a signal to the quad saying, hey, contract. And at the same time, it sends a signal to the opposite muscle group, the opposing muscle group, the hamstrings, to relax. So that way the quad can do its job more efficiently. And we can take advantage of that, what's known as autogenic inhibition, by following that contraction phase with the stretch phase. And that is PNF stretching in essence. And being able to tell them that, they're like, oh, that makes sense. That's what I'm feeling. And now there's that connection of mind to body, to matter, to information. And then they feel like they're aware of what's actually going on. And then that might actually trigger some other process of, that's what I'm feeling when I do this, or now I want to go figure out why this does that. And it's just that whole information, being able to give them that understanding.
and cool, because some people, you see them start to like, start to see like light bulbs go off, and you start to
Yeah,
see
You
But the
see the
people,
wheels turning. And then the other thing I've noticed too is there's that you mentioned this too with mindset, is it increases their awareness. And when they're aware and when they become aware, they can start to establish goals. And then once they establish goals, that's when their brain is able to identify basically obstacles from things that will help accelerate you to your goal. So basically things that will impede you from your goal and things that will help you to your goal. Now your brain can differentiate those things. Without the goal, you can't differentiate, and without awareness, you can't come up with the goal. So that's
exactly.
where providers like us come into play, because we've gone through that ourselves to be able to provide them that awareness, and by extension also help them structure their lives that is beneficial for whatever goals they have. And that is ultimately what I want to get into talking about with this podcast, is ways to go about doing that, and what we've done and what we've experienced in our own lives that have led us to feel that we can do that for other people as well. And that is another thing that I think extends to all of our training businesses that we were starting and we want to promote. Is that's one thing I've also recognized, aside from the insurance, is also just the culture or the mindset that revolves around going to the doctor's office. There's something called white coat hypertension. Like the fear of a doctor is a real thing, and that just isn't a great mental state for starting somebody down the path of healing. So by extension, also trying to design a culture or a community where people are wanting to come there, and it's somewhere where they are wanting to come for health and fitness, and it's not something they feel like they need to do. It's not a chore. It's not something some providers telling them to do. It's something that they want to come and do. They want to learn more about and explore, and they might not have all the tools and means to do it, but that's what we're here for, is to give them the tools and the means to navigate those waters. And I think all of that together it'll avoid the insurance limitations, and it will give them a sense of community. Aside from, you'll meet other people too. You'll meet us, all of these things. And that's ultimately what I want to start setting as the foundation for the future of some type of healthcare, whatever that is. And obviously we still need hospitals, we still need surgery, we still need medications for radical diseases, but for more of the chronic lifestyle induced conditions that we see at an increasing rate nowadays, it's like we need to start doing something about that. And I feel like it's something like this. And one organization that, all of the complaints against them aside, one thing that they did do well is promote a really strong knit community, was CrossFit. The CrossFit community is like, it's a big culture. Granted, there was a lot of issues that have come up since then, and I, stopped following this and that. But one thing they did do is that community, that if you did CrossFit and you met somebody else that did CrossFit, it was like, dude, you're like, you guys were buddies, and it was like super cool.
One of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And then also having like those leaderboards and being able to just put your fitness on a spectrum or a spectrum, and seeing where you're at in that spectrum is just another way to promote your own fitness, and seeing, okay, this is where I'm at, I have room to grow type thing. It's like that type of nature to health and fitness and well-being is something that I want to start creating, and something that you can't do alone. And that's where having like-minded individuals such as us coming together to create that network will really set things apart. And I think that is what this podcast can do too, is, and I think I mentioned that already, is, and Mikael brought this up, is creating that mindset for people and giving them that awareness. So hopefully if you trickle into this podcast, you'll ideally listen to something that we say that just triggers that awareness for you, and it'll start navigating you down that road. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that's funny that you guys mentioned, about just like teaching people, certain things. That's my mindset, to where if I'm training someone, my end goal is to allow them to feel what they should be feeling when they're lifting, when they're stretching, and whatnot. And my whole thing is, if I can educate them to a point where they don't have to come back to me and they can educate someone else, then I'm doing my job correctly.
The butterfly effect.
Well, all my new clients, when we first start, like, my goal is to not train you forever. Like, I mean, if you want to
Exactly.
train, awesome, I'll love it. Like,
Yeah.
my clients, but like, my goal is for like one day you can be like, okay, I don't need this anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I'll for you
Yeah.
to keep doing
I'm
it.
doing my job.
Yeah, exactly. Keep doing it, of course, but my end goal is for everyone to be like, okay, I can go to a gym and be totally fine. Like,
Exactly.
because like it's there's so many people where like that's their biggest thing that stops them from starting in the first place. It's like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't feel comfortable here. Like,
Exactly.
throwing around weights, like, it's intimidating.
Yeah.
Like we have an awesome opportunity to show people like, dude, this is really easy to get started, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't gotta worry about all that shit. Like, let's just do some blue bridges to start or
Yeah.
whatever. Oh, like,
Yeah.
let's go walk for a bit. Like,
Right.
it's easy, man. People like think it's really, really complicated. Which is fair that they do because like, you walk into a gym for the first time ever and you see somebody like deadlifting 600 pounds. You know, you're like, fuck, that's intimidating.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
out.
and
Yeah, dude, I'm out.
and to make that relative to what I went through, like I said at the very beginning, you know, that first transition for me was soda to water. And that's where it all started. That was the first thing I did. And that was just the first dial I turned. And once I turned that, the gears started turning on and other light bulbs started clicking. And I was like, okay, what else can I add to that? And then it just started progressively building from there. And granted, you know, my education has helped me really, you know, manifest that into a fine-tuned process now. But because of that, that's where I feel like, okay, I've gone through it myself. I have the education to back it up and I have some of the experience. Let's continue to build that experience and grow a community. And let's start to bring in some followers and some clients and really start to help people.
Yeah. Dude, just like this, like just talking about this shit gets me like juiced, man. Like I got a session in like an hour and a half. I can't fucking wait. I can't wait, bro. I'm ready to go like give instructions.
Oh, this just makes me want clients. So if anyone's listening to this and you need a lifestyle coach, personal trainer, hit me up. I need clients.
Same.
I'm trying to take on at least 5 right now just to help get me transitioning out of the current job I'm at. So if I can get like 5 clients to just, you know, especially with gyms being closed, like I understand there's a lot of limitations. Granted, like I can do online coaching, do a little bit of what Mikael does with Zoom sessions, all that stuff. Like we can make it work to where ultimately long term, once things start opening back up, hopefully, you know, we can train at facilities, things like that. By extension, if you're local to me, I also have basically a full gym in my garage back home. So it's like I have places to work out there if you're local to Rancho. So if you're interested in what we're talking about here and getting some training, hit one of us up. We got locations in the Bay, Texas, Southern California. We're all over. We're
Got it
all
all.
over. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So definitely, if you're listening, share this podcast with your friends, family, anybody, everybody. I know we'll be posting on our Instagrams and everything. I gotta blast it. I gotta send it to family and friends and try and get it growing.
Not to as soon as we post it, I'm putting this shit everywhere. So
Yeah, what I also want to do is I want to drop like a agro ad, and then after the agro ad, I want to drop the first episode release. So then that way, the first 3 at the bottom, it's like coming soon, agro ad, and then the first episode. And then once we drop the first episode, what I can do is I can just archive the coming soon so it disappears, and then fill that 3rd slot with an ad for one of Durz's companies. And then maybe we can either teaser that being as our next episode, or we can just pick up or with a little bit of this conversation as it relates to our training companies. And then I can, because we've been going for a little over an hour now, actually. So we've been going for an hour and 5 minutes now. We've been cruising. This was a good convo here. So what we could do next time is I can save the thesis convo for then, and then we can have like a whole
definitely dive
session
in way deeper.
Exactly. And then that way we can get like a full Q&A and really get into detail with that, because it's some good information. I think it would give something for the listeners to look forward to too, something we already have planned, which is that thesis discussion. So next episode, we'll kind of talk about each of our training businesses. I'll go into a little bit of more detail about my master's thesis. Title was Impact of 6 Weeks of Intermittent Fasting with and without aerobic exercise on serum BDNF in young adult males. So we'll talk more about all of that.
That's a hot topic.
It is. Time restricted
It's a hot
feeding, intermittent
topic,
fasting.
man.
It is. Cognition as well. BDNF is pretty prominent right now in the research too. It's another hot topic in research, especially when you start talking about Alzheimer's disease, and that being one of the major diseases that we're going to be facing in the future here, especially as populations live longer, the brain's going to start deteriorating. And as you live longer, you're going to need ways to keep that brain healthy and viable. Otherwise,
man.
Dude, it's scary. I don't know if you guys seen the projections on Alzheimer's, but it's high. Like I think by 2030, if I'm remembering the data right, it's something like 60 to 70% of people will suffer some type of Alzheimer's disease or dementia starting in 2030.
Oh, dude, that is a lot of people, bro.
Yep, it's 2 out of 3 people. Yeah, are going to have some form of Alzheimer's or dementia. And one of the major risk factors for developing Alzheimer's dementia and later in life, glucose intolerance.
Should definitely talk about that in one of the podcasts.
And a very, very close trend that almost goes hand in hand is by 2030, 2/3 of the population is going to be overweight and obese. And what goes hand in hand with overweight and obesity? Glucose intolerance. So it's like, and that's what we're kind of seeing now is this obesity and glucose intolerance is destabilizing the cognitive health of people to where their brain is aging faster than normal. And it's likely that people are going to start developing dementia at an even earlier age than when they're developing it now in their 60s, 70s, 80s. Because the people who are getting dementia now, you got to think like these are people back during like World War II, even before that, where like at least for the male side of things, because Mikael kind of touched on this, the way society has framed things for females is, there was people are a bit more physically active, or at the very least, there wasn't as much overweight and obesity. Like when you look at black and white photos and like that, and like gym pictures, like everyone was basically the same weight. And like you can talk to your parents, they'll be like, yeah, the overweight kid was like there were far and few between in your classes in school and stuff like that. So it's definitely a prominent trend, and that's what ultimately was my motivation into that whole topic and realm of intermittent fasting, aerobic exercise, BDNF. Is the conversation of where we're heading in terms of a population and health and all of that. But we can get into that. We'll save that for future. Just a little.
This will be a good one.
A little foreshadowing there for everybody. Yeah. But yeah, there was something I was gonna say. Oh, we went on that tangent. I totally spaced on what I was gonna say.
Ever, bro.
Oh, what was it? Somebody say something while I think. Hold on.
Alzheimer's, nutrition, PNF.
No, it was more of like a concluding statement, like wrapping things up. No, I forgot again. Oh, no. I remember now.
Here we go.
Instagram post. It was the Instagram posts. So after doing the third one where we shout out Durs, what I was thinking doing then is just to kind of get some content moving on the podcast in between till our next episode and it'll relate to this episode. So it'll also like, we can post the link for this and just keep bringing viewers back to this, is doing like a quick spotlight post for each one of us. Yeah. So the first 3 will be like, like agro episode 1 lit, and then like Michael, me, Mikael, or however we wanted to do it. So then you have like each one of our faces and then a brief description of who we are and our background in like kind of summary of what we just talked about here, with a link to this episode at the bottom, so then people can follow that and then go kind of listen to this episode again, and then we'll start tailoring towards the next episode. How often do we want to post episodes? For right now, we said once a month right now for now, while we get the hang of things and build the followership.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Cool for now. Once we get like better with like editing and it's like more like second nature, then we can start.
And I think that's another thing we should look into too, is some way to fundraise for this or start bringing in some type of income, to where if we could pay like a video editor or some type of software person to kind of maybe even advertise for us, do the video editing. So shout out anybody who has those skills and wants to help us out. We're obviously startup, so money's not a thing in conversation right now, so probably some pro bono work. But if this sounded like something you want to be a part of, like I said, I think my buddy Quinn might be interested in wanting to help us out, so I'll hit him up too. So then for the listeners too, we can start making this more succinct, everything sounds better, it's just a more well-rounded professional type podcast. And I think that is in essence what we talked about here, though, is you got to start somewhere and you got to build. It's about that. It's about making those mistakes and learning from those mistakes and growing. So grow with us, and hopefully
grow with us.
Yep. Hey, shout out to Agro. Shout out to Agro. That wasn't even intended. That wasn't even intended. But yeah.
I was waiting for the right time to say grow with us, but come on, man.
There we go. There we go. Grow with us. Yeah. So yeah, I think we can wrap it up there. And yeah, so we'll try and get the next episode out, February 1st. So this episode's obviously should be dropped on January 1st. We're recording this obviously in advance. So We'll be releasing this January 1st, which means the next episode will come up in the first week of February there, whatever day February 1st is. I don't know. Do we want to just go with the first day of every month, or do we want to set like a day of the week, like the first Sunday of every month, or so we have like some time to put it together?
First Fridays.
First Friday of every month. Okay, yeah, I kind of like that. I like that because Friday, final set, F, alliteration. My brain likes that.
Final Set Friday, baby.
Final set Friday. Ooh,
Hey.
there we go. See, we didn't really have a slogan. I think we just created the slogan. Final set
Yeah.
Fridays.
Set Fridays.
So this sums up the first set here on the final set. There we go.
Hey.
Let's get it. Alrighty, boys. I'm gonna go ahead and end the podcast. Later, everybody. Thanks for
See ya.
listening. See you guys next time.